think we can all agree that water is the hub of life. It plays a vital role in human body as we can survive up to several weeks without food, but only few days without water. Every systems in the body, starting from cells and tissues to essential organs, require water to become operational. Furthermore, humans use water for industrial applications, waste disposal, recreation, irrigating agriculture, and hydropower. Today, we are going to explore further depths of the ocean. Did you know that 97.5% of Earth's water is salt water, while the remaining 99% is in the form of underground water or ice? All told, less than 1% of fresh water is found in available surface forms such as lakes and rivers. Many living species depend on this small portion of surface water, and lack of water can have serious effects on ecosystem. Most of the water on Earth does not cycle.
But for those that do, I will now explain the processes behind the water cycle. The water cycle can be defined as the continuous movement of water within the Earth and atmosphere. It starts off when the liquid water evaporates from the surface of the Earth. Then the water vapor rises into the atmosphere. When it's still there, it cools and condenses into the rain or snow in clouds. When these substances gets too heavy to stay suspended in clouds, they will fall again to the surface as a precipitation. Precipitation falls to the surface and infiltrates the soil or flows to the ocean as the runoff. Then going full circle, surface water will once again evaporate. To add more fun into this presentation, let me tell you some interesting facts about our ocean. Let's go ahead with number 1. Are you aware that 99% of our planet's habitable spaces can be found within the ocean? Or that the oceans contain the majority of life on Earth? Specifically, about 94% of all living species. Wow, that's a huge number, considering that in 2021 we're already closing in on a population of 8 billion. And lastly, with all the hype about planting trees to produce oxygen, did you know that about 70% of Earth's oxygen comes from the ocean as a byproduct of marine-dwelling planktons? I know, right? That's pretty interesting.
Invasive species also harm both the natural resources of oceans and the ability of humans to utilize these assets. They are able to cause extinctions of various native plants and animals, among many other negative effects. Major invasive species include the veined rapawhelk, which established itself in many locations which include the Black Sea, South America, and the European coastal waters. This animal feeds on bivalve mollusks, which severely reduces the amount of shellfish present within the area. Next is the killer algae, scientifically known as Caulerpa taxifolia, which is a bright green seaweed that escaped from private aquariums in the US, Japan, Australia, and France. Currently, it's residing within the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. It continually replaces native plants and deprives marine life of food and habitat. And finally, the sea walnut, which is a jellyfish-like animal that can be seen within both the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. The sea walnut has erected into enormous populations within these locations, and it's becoming a huge problem for local fisheries because they feed on the zooplankton that commercial fish eat in that area.
We are becoming increasingly aware of our impacts on nature, but unfortunately, many of the things we do have become so ingrained in our life that it is hard to change. We interrupt the water cycle in two ways: withdrawals and discharges. In withdrawals, we take the water out of the system to carry out many of our industrial processes, while for discharges, we add substances to the water, intentionally or not. Lachatulio's principle states that if a dynamic equilibrium is disturbed by changing the conditions, the position of equilibrium shifts to counteract the change to re-establish an equilibrium. In an anthropogenic view, what we do to this system, the water cycle, affects everything within it. For example, what happens if rain that falls from the sky or the water that flows through our streams is contaminated? These contaminants may infect plant or animal life, including human beings. or reduce their ability to grow and reproduce. What happens if large quantities of water are diverted or taken out of the system? The reduced flow will likely affect the local water supply, but it may eventually change the local environment and alter the plant and animal species that are found there. As we place different stresses on this system, we run the risk of altering or overloading it and causing serious harm. Although with more than about half of the world's population living near coasts, it's not surprising that the negative effects of our activities are beginning to show themselves in our oceans, which is all caused by urbanization and emerging human population.
Despite the harsh conditions our planet's waters are subjected to, epigenetics occur as a means for the affected marine life to adapt in these harmful occurrences. That being said, epigenetics is a study of how one's behavior and environment can cause changes to how their genes work. It does not change one's DNA sequence, but rather, it changes how the body reads a DNA sequence, and any epigenetic change that happens can be reversed. The most common condition our oceans are subjected to is the ever-increasing ocean warming brought about by global warming. Based on a study by Rio T et al., the thermal stress caused by ocean warming is causing a population of reef fish from the Great Barrier Reef to undergo epigenetic changes. They discovered that the population of reef fish that has undergone epigenetic change have their genes involving nutrient control, development process, cardiovascular functions, and especially their response to heat stress to be greatly enriched compared to the population of the same species without any epigenetic change. This population of reef fish are said to be located in hotspot regions, which explains their necessity to adapt. From this example, we can see that despite the change within their environment, the reef fish manage to conform with the changes to keep on living. Essentially, water is arguably the most important facet for our and the planet's survival. Us humans greatly rely on water sources for our different activities, and majority of the planet's inhabitants, if not all, also rely on water. We have explored the dangers that invasive species can cause to the natural resources of oceans, as well as the dangers us humans have caused. Luckily, marine life finds a way to adapt in these conditions through epigenetics. Now that we have submerged and tackled the depths of our oceans, it is now up to us to make a change. SubMErged, exploring the ocean's hidden depths.